We are back for a new episode of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I'm Jason Floyd. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. is here to break down UFC Vegas 119. Of course, headlined by a rematch in the flyweight division. Of course, the UFC may not publicize this as a rematch, but it is a rematch from their days in Ryzen. That'll be Manel, Kape, and Kyoji Horiguchi. Also, co-main event, you got Cutelaba taking on Navajo. Stirling, we're here to break it down for you over the next 60 to 75 minutes or so. Of course, we come in here following UFC Freedom 250. Congratulations to Chad R. Hill taking down the Fight HQ contest. Not going to mention who finished second, but damn, you beat me by 13 points. Unfortunately, he had Josh Holkin in that captain spot to, I want to say it was 204 points in that captain spot. Of course, we had 4 fighters go over 100 points, and none of those fighters were in the main event. Holk at 135, Nickel 122, Hoofy at 118, Gunn at 101. I know something that I did in contest was stacking the main event, which I want to say Gaethje was 84 points, and I want to say Topuria was like 61, 64, somewhere in that range in terms of that one. But overall, thought it was a great night of fights that we had last weekend. I was not feeling very good about my Diego Lopez call after about 7 minutes of that fight. I'm sitting at home. I'm sitting on my couch watching it. I'm going, well, crap.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally, I'm sitting there, and thank God Steve Garcia got a little reckless.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I was thinking the opposite. I was so happy with my read of Steve Garcia because in round 1 he was picking him apart, and even in round 2 he was picking Diego Lopez apart, and then got hit, wanted to answer back right away with a chaotic exchange, and got a little reckless, and then that led to Diego Lopez just being aggressive, and next thing you know, punches were exchanged, and Garcia gets dropped, and the ground and pound was vicious, and he was out. So credit to Diego Lopez, but he was clearly losing that fight up until that point. All in all, I thought the card was fantastic, and the read on Steve Garcia, I would do it again because I think that he can win that bout. It's just he's been chinny at times, and it was exposed in that one moment because he stood in front of Diego Lopez.
And one of the guys we talked about last week that, could have been someone that in certain contests you might get a leverage on the field, Bo Nickel. We saw the Bo Nickel that this is a guy that we have expected to see. And, what he goes out there and did, Mauricio looked great. Chandler, I never want to be that guy, Pete. I don't want to be that guy, but there might be a conversation with his inner circle.
Let me propose something to you. I know that he's extremely muscle bound. What do you think about him thinking about a drop to featherweight? I don't think he could ever really make the weight, but if he could, I think that there's, a path to getting some victories within that weight class. Lightweight's ridiculously difficult. I mean,
me and Daniel talked about this yesterday on the airport. I think if he is going to continue fighting and the UFC wants to stay in the Michael Chandler business, I think the fight that makes the most sense is him versus Jim Miller.
That's a good call. I like that. That's a really good call. I mean, the problem is he's so small for the weight class, like height-wise. He's going to be at a physical disadvantage, and he got away with it, outside the UFC in Bellator. But he was also extremely athletic, young. His chin was still there, and he was in his prime. Now he's post-prime, and he just looked horrible. And it was the matchup. I think that he can look better. But the Jim Miller fight, that's a really, really interesting fight. And he's not a part of the elite conversation, but he can still stay in the UFC and find some fun fights. It's just he has to be matched correctly. And I think, somebody like Jim Miller makes a ton of sense if he's going to stay at lightweight.
And kudos Justin Gaethje. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. I want to say it was at the press conference on Friday or maybe earlier in the week where he said, I'm going to take all of Topuria's best shots, and by the end of the second round, I'm going to break him because he's going to realize he can't knock me out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
It was crazy because Topuria was so convinced that he was going to finish Gaethje inside round 1 that he kind of put himself in a bad spot when it didn't happen, right? And even Gaethje said, I'm so happy you're confident that you're going to knock me out in round 1. because when round 2 starts and then round 3 and whatnot, I'm just going to get more confident, and you are going to become broken because you thought this was going to be an easy fight. And from the opening bell, I just thought Toporia's tactics were a little odd. He just went straight at Justin Gaethje with literally no care or respect for Gaethje's punches, his power or his precision. And, wasn't kind of like moving his head inside the pocket. He just kind of he went in there with a high guard and tried to get inside the phone booth with Justin Gaethje, because I really think that he thought he was going to knock him out with one of the opening exchanges. And the jab was on point. The uppercuts were on point. And just the strategy of Trevor Whitman, shaping Justin Gaethje to, fight the perfect fight. It was great. And let's not take anything away from Topuria. He had Justin Gaethje finished. He did. I mean, the liver shot was sensational. He could have, tried to let him up. He could have dropped him with the body shot and walked away, and maybe, the referee would have intervened. And in these grappling moments and scenarios, I thought, oh, it's curtains. I thought that he was going to submit Justin Gaethje. But the resilience of Justin Gaethje was on full display. And on, the White House card, the American underdog stepped up and captured the lightweight title. So it was absolutely fantastic.
And I'd recommend, in terms of the regulatory side of the sport, John McCarthy did an interview with MMA Junkie, which was really enlightening, talking about kind of the relationship between the referee and the head physician. And one of the things I learned in that interview that I did not know, in the state of California, if the doctor says fight's over, the referee can't stop it. And John said in other jurisdictions, it can be a little bit of a conversation. He goes, and in a world title fight, he goes, look, you don't want to call the fight off. But before we get into breaking down this DFS card here, I'm on Instagram and I see a video that you might have shared. Are you just beating up your fighters because you can't get a fight?
No, I mean, I'm just training my guys, man. I'm training my guys and getting them ready. And, some of my students travel to train for cross training. And one of my guys just came back from Florida. He was training at MMA Masters for a week and a half or whatnot, and putting in good work. Comes home and he's sharp. And, we did some rounds, and, it was great. We did 8 5-minute rounds the other day, and his video cracked me up because he basically called out all the promotions and said, if you don't sign my coach, I don't know what's wrong with you, because I'm tired of getting head kicked. And his face was a little busted up, but it was all under control. And, that's why I swear, I was telling somebody the other day that I'm sharper and better than I've ever been, because I have these young, hungry fighters a part of my gym that are always trying to best me, whether it's a grappling round or a sparring round. So I'm always having to stay on my toes and make sure that I am still viewed as the guy. So, it's been great.
I remember years ago, Greg Rebello saying to me, because he said a lot of his sparring partners were amateurs. And he said, the reason I love it, he goes, they just keep coming. They keep coming.
They don't care. Yeah.
And he goes, those people give me some of my hardest rounds.
Yeah, he's right. Absolutely. And, I have a growing team, and I'm pouring out all my knowledge to them, and I'm not holding anything back, even though I want to hold some secrets back. But I don't. And because I'm giving them all of my knowledge, it's making me develop and improve and stay sharp, because I can't catch them with the same stuff anymore. So it's great. And, my goal is to make my students and teammates and fighters better than I ever was.
Oh, that's the way it should be here. But of course, we got UFC Vegas 119 come up here tomorrow, lock time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, as we've got a 12 fight card. Only one fight change on this fight card. That happened 2 weeks ago when Kadze pulled out of the matchup against Vinicius Oliveira. So Andre Fili steps up on short notice here, and obviously a much different matchup for Vinicius Oliveira. And kind of an interesting slate here on DraftKings this week. We got 6 fighters in the 9K range. We have 6 fighters in the 8K range, and then a ton of fighters there in the 7K range, and 3 fighters in the 8K range. And, and me and you were kind of talking before the show. We were kind of talking about underdogs we like, and and I wouldn't say like from a straight up pick, there's a lot of underdogs I really want to pick, but there are some interesting fighters that are, like I'll point out Andre Fili as one of them because we know where he trains. We saw what happened in Vinicius' last fight. Like that to me from at 7,300, he's like one of those low 7,300 options that there's two low 7,000 options that stick out to me this week. The other one's being Ian Cutelaba.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't hate the Andre Fili call because he did look good in his previous matchup against Jose Delgado, and that was a very competitive matchup, had 4 takedowns and scored 53 in a loss. And the stylistic switch up from Vinicius Oliveira facing Giga Chikadze to now facing Andre Fili, you go from a dominant striker into a well-rounded mixed martial artist. So my guess would be that when you're facing Giga Chikadze, you're worried about the kicks and looking to wrestle early. And against Andre Fili, you got to be ready for everything. I think that the call of Ian Cutelaba is one that is always like a disgusting call. None of us want to pick him like straight up because he's so untrustworthy, but he did just beat Umar Sy in pretty solid fashion, beat Ibo Aslan and Ivan Ursulan. So, he lost a decision to Modestas Bukauskas, but I actually think that Cutelaba is better now than he's ever been and has shown some durability more so now lately. The other option I'll mention that's down at the 7K range that I don't hate from a value standpoint is Mitch Raposo if he's able to keep it on the feet. Obviously, he has that path to victory. And, of course, the co-main event, the main event underdog of Kyoji Horiguchi at 7,600. I think that's a competitive matchup. But, yeah, this week the salaries are a little strange. I like some of these favorites. I just don't like how wide the lines are. And, I could see paths to victory for some of these underdogs, but nothing with conviction where I'm like, yeah, I love this underdog in this spot.
Yeah, and we got 2 fights that feature all the fighters in those matchups making their UFC debut that I think you could probably make the argument that these are probably fights that likely would be on Dana White's Contender Series coming up here this summer. A fighter in the 8K range that does kind of interest me, and he's had a very up and down UFC run, and that's Christian Rodriguez, especially if he's able to get the grappling game going against Hyder Amil. That's somebody that I'm looking at as I'm looking to, try to, because obviously if you want to get to some of these 9K options, we got some very expensive 9K options, and I could very well see the case where I might build a lineup with no 9K fighters.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, I don't hate that. I definitely don't hate that. I used to love living in the mid-range. It's just convincing yourself that leaving salary on the table is a good thing. Sometimes you're like, naturally, I just want to spend all my salary because I'm so used to like in NBA DFS where I want to pay up for the studs. In fighting in MMA, leaving salary on the table is fine, and living in that mid-range is a good strategy.
Yeah. So, of course, if you do got any questions, you can line those up in the chat. Also, you can, I know we already got a couple questions on our Discord channel. You can leave them there. Of course, link to our Discord channel is in the description of the show. Also in the description of the show is the link to Pete's Patreon page where you get access to all the tools that Pete does have. Also, the link to the DraftKings contest. Pete, for the people who are not familiar with your Patreon page, what can they expect over there?
Yeah, so on the Patreon page, it's just a nice sheet that puts everything all together, where it has the fight odds, the salaries, their, the career win percentage, how active they've been since 2024, the median projection for the slate, their ceiling projection for the slate, the pace of the fight, the pace of the fighter, and physical advantages as well. So height, reach, youth advantage. And then my favorite is the takedown numbers to see how many takedowns these fighters are attempting in actuality, how many they're landing, and how many they could land against their opponent's takedown defense. So I just like having it all on one sheet, and it is beneficial for DFS, but also for betting.
No question about that. But let's get into breaking this one down here. Of course, the main event, key matchup in the flyweight division. We got Manel Kape taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. Manel priced at 8,600 on DraftKings. Kyoji is priced at 7,600. Of course, if you're not familiar, this is a rematch from 2017, which was a third-round submission win for Kyoji Horiguchi. Of course, that fight taking place over in Ryzen. Manel 7-3 in the UFC. He has won 3 in a row. All those wins come via stoppage. Coming off a first-round victory against Brandon Royval back in December. Clearly his best win in the UFC, and a guy that's always, it seems like he's always a fight away from potentially getting that title matchup. He does have a 5-inch reach advantage. Of course, Kyoji recently returning to the UFC, 2-0 since coming back to the UFC. He's unbeaten in his last 8 fights. And Pete, he is coming off a decision win back in February against Amir Albazi.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I love Kyoji Horiguchi, but I also love Manel Kape, and I'm a fan of both of them. I think that naturally I've always flocked to admiring the lighter weight classes. The WEC was my favorite because of the 155 pounds and under for the most part. So these flyweights, I mean, the skill level that they represent is unmatched. The volume striking, the technical ability on the feet, in addition to how well-rounded they are. That both of these guys can wrestle. Both of them have submission ability. Both of them have exceptional boxing and footwork. So when you put it all together, you're looking at an exciting matchup and a very competitive one. Manel Kape can win this fight. Kyoji Horiguchi can win this fight. And Kyoji Horiguchi, did win this initial bout against Manel Kape years ago and was able to hurt Manel Kape throughout that bout and eventually find the finish via submission. But I think that Manel Kape is, he's evolved and developed since then. I mean, so it's been a very long time since their first encounter, and we've seen Manel Kape kind of mature inside the UFC. Kyoji Horiguchi trains at American Top Team and is an exceptional fighter. And within his return, he looked unbelievable against Tagir Ulanbekov and Amir Albazi. Meanwhile, we've seen Manel Kape take out Brandon Royval, Asuam Mabayev, Silva, lost a competitive matchup to Makayev. But this is one where I think it's going to be like very, very close. I actually think the punching power will favor Manel Kape here, and I think that his striking accuracy and his willingness to engage and throw longer combinations will lead to a victory, whereas Kyoji Horiguchi is a lot of in and out movement, trying to be as elusive as possible, land good shots, will mix in wrestling. I just think that Manel Kape is not the same fighter he was when he lost to Kyoji Horiguchi years ago. And I'm going to favor Manel Kape here, but this is a toss-up for me. I think this is a very close matchup. I expected this to be 8,200, 8,000, it being 8,600 and 7,600. I find that to be a little interesting, but I will slightly favor Manel Kape. I think the hands and the power will be enough to kind of edge out Kyoji Horiguchi, and anything that's landed from Kyoji will be answered by Manel Kape. The 5-round nature is interesting, but I do have Manel Kape landing something significant and walking away with a TKO over Kyoji Horiguchi. But if Kyoji comes in here, priced at such a very nice price at 7,600, he's one of the best values on the slate. I always say prioritize main event, co-main event underdogs. I don't hate getting to Kyoji at all. Trying to wrap my head around if I would stack this fight, but obviously if I think that a finish does occur, then the stack is out of the equation. But I'm picking Manel Kape here, Jason.
Yeah, I don't mind that call either. I agree with everyone. I mean, when I was putting together my spreadsheet of the prop bets and the money line on this one, that the plus 200 Manel wins by TKO KO was very intriguing to me. But from a DFS perspective, if you are looking for a value play, I don't mind the value in Kyoji Horiguchi, but the 5-inch reach advantage that Manel is going to have in this one, and that power advantage that he does have. Even though, I mean, look, Koji's 9-1 in the UFC. I mean, he's always been elite level, and I think the winner of this matchup is likely going to to be facing Joshua Van if Pantoja is not ready to go here in the next couple months. So, yeah, for me, Manel Kape is going to be the pick there. Co-main event will be in the light heavyweight division. We got Ian Cutelaba taking on Navajo Stirling. Stirling is priced at 9,200. Cutelaba is priced at 7,000. Ian Cutelaba, guy's been around the UFC, and this isn't a great stat. 9 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw. He is 3-1 in his last 4 fights. His last 2 wins have come via submission. In the opening round, as Pete mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, is coming off that win back in March against Umar C. Navajo Stirling, 4-0 in the UFC, coming off a TKO win back in March against Bruno Lopez. That was his first stoppage victory. Of course, when I think about Navajo Stirling, I think about the stand-up abilities, but it's tough to trust Ian Cutelaba, but man, I definitely see a path there, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting fight because it's a veteran facing an up-and-comer, and Navajo Stirling is a hype machine where a lot of people saw his power on display on the Contender Series, and the fact that he's from City Kickboxing and is a very talented striker and crossing over into MMA. Everybody thinks that it's the next Israel Adesanya. He's really good. But I also think that he can be green in some areas. I mean, we did see Tuco Tokos take him down 3 of 9 times and have 3.5 minutes of control time. We did see Rodolfo Bellato take him down 2 of 6 times and have 3 minutes of control time. I think that this is an interesting matchup of a veteran facing an up-and-comer. And I'm going to favor the veteran here in Ian Cutelaba. Cutelaba's striking defense always worries me and always is why he can get knocked out at any moment. He's a little reckless, but he does seem to be a little bit more polished. And maybe his statistics are slightly skewed because of his early UFC career. When I see 47% striking defense, I don't like that at all. But he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He can strike. He can go out here and knock out Navajo Stirling. What are we talking about? But his best path to victory is incorporating wrestling, looking to take the striker down or pin him to the cage. And, he's got a massive experience advantage over Navajo Stirling, who's only 9-0 in MMA, whereas Ian Cutelaba is 20-11. I don't love picking him straight up. I think there's value and value on the 7,000 salary of Cutelaba sitting at plus 260. You just worry about Cutelaba winning and then ultimately getting finished in the second or third round, and I'm still just going to take a shot, and I'm going to say, Cutelaba ends up providing another vet lesson. I mean, it's somewhat impressive form for him, win over Urslan, win over Aslan, decision loss to Bukauskas, and a win over Sai. So, I think Cutelaba is probably at his best he's ever been, whereas Navajo is still learning and developing. So, give me the value side here in the underdog of Ian Cutelaba at plus 260 as a 7,000 salaried fighter.
To me, he's just a boom bust play on this card. That's 100%. Why I look at Ian.
Yep.
I think you really bring up a great point there. I mean, if you think early on in Ian's UFC run, very reckless. But you've really seen over the past couple of fights, he does seem to have a lot more patience and waiting for things to develop here. If the fight stays on the feed, I do favor Stirling, just because that would be his realm. But you got to think Cutelaba, part of this mindset has got to be, hey, let me test and see if I can get him to the ground here. From a DFS perspective, definitely do not mind the call of Ian Cutelaba, but overall for me, it will be a Navajo Stirling pick. Next up, we got Hyder Amil taking on Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez is priced at 8,400. Hyder Amil comes in here priced at 7,800. Amil has lost back-to-back fights after starting 3-0 in the UFC, coming off a decision loss against Jamal Emmers back there in November. To me, if he can keep the fight on the feet, he's got a good shot here, but I do look at the takedown potential liability for him. Is a little bit older at this weight class at 36 years old. Christian Rodriguez just an up and down UFC run, 5-4 in the UFC. 7 of his 9 UFC fights have gone the distance. In those fights, 4 wins, 3 losses. Coming off a split decision loss in August against Andre Fili. And Pete, if you tell me that this fight goes to the ground, I think this is a great Christian Rodriguez play.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that Christian Rodriguez he was a fraud checker for a while. I mean, you put prospects up against him, and he's the prospect killer. And then you put guys that are veterans, and he struggles or loses close decisions to him. Hyder Amil, I think, has surprised people with how good he's been inside the UFC. I mean, the Garcia win, the Lee crazy finish, the Gomis win, but losing back-to-back fights to Delgado via finish and Emmers via decision, it just kind of shows you that he's a little raw as well, and he has a susceptibility to being taken down. Jamal Emmers exposed that, 7 of 8 takedowns, 8 minutes of control time, and if I am Christian Rodriguez, I'm looking to replicate that because we know, even on the Contender Series, Emrah Sonmez took down Hyder Amil 5 times and had 6 minutes of control time. So, I mean, on the feet, Hyder is a hurricane. It's a perfect nickname for him. He tries to storm you, blitz you with a barrage of punches. If you get pushed against the cage, he will land endless combinations, and the power is sneaky for the division. He will sleep you, he will hurt you, he'll rock you, and he'll take the will right out of you. I mean, look what he did to Jung Young Lee. Look what he did to Fernie Garcia. He overwhelms people, so the Hurricane nickname is perfect. But I do think that the more polished fighter here is C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez, who can win in many different ways. Christian Rodriguez can outstrike Hyder Amil from a technical standpoint. He can go out there and put a jab on him, low kick him, chop him, utilize good footwork, make Hyder Amil comfortable on the feet, and then change levels. We saw him have an absolute war with Melsik Costa, which is just so odd because he landed 6 of 15 takedowns. And I think Melsik Costa's a good grappler, a really good kicker, and he had almost 7 minutes of control time. So for me, I think that C-Rod's in a fantastic spot to just be better and best Hyder Amil every round. If you stand on the feet and you just get into a firefight, you can lose to Hyder Amil and get pinned up against the cage, and next thing you know, you're working from behind. But I think if Christian Rodriguez establishes the jab and strikes when he needs to and incorporates some wrestling, I think that he gets this done. So I think the salary is pretty nice. He's at a real sweet spot at 8,400. And on the flip side, I think that Hyder Amil, given what he does when he wins, 95, 106, 131, I think that he's in a great spot. The pace of this fight is going to be ridiculous, but I'm going to be favoring C-Rod to get this done. I just think he's fought the better competition, even though Hyder Amil has fought, Emmers, Delgado, Gomis. When you go and you look at who C-Rod has fought, Andre Fili, Bashi, Melsik Costa, Delgarian, Raul Rosas, Julian Rosa. I'm going to favor I'm going to favor C-Rod here. I think that he gets it done, and I absolutely love his salary.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. I mean, I think that this is probably a fight that you have to circle as a very much a priority fight in GPPs because you mentioned about the scores that Hyder has pulled off when he has been successful, a high volume puncher. I mean, when you watch him fight, if you didn't know where he trained and you've been a long time fan of MMA, you know exactly who his head trainer is, and being Gilbert Melendez, because he fights just like Gil fought when Gil was competing. But yeah, overall Christian Rodriguez is the play for me, but I do not mind the underdog call of Hyder Amil, especially in GPPs. Next up, we got a matchup of a fighter making his UFC debut in Magomedov, who is priced at $9,000, taking on Baghasaryan, who is priced at $7,200. Baghasaryan's first fight since February of last year, which was a loss against John Silva, first round TKO. He's 3-2 in the UFC. 2 of his 3 UFC wins have come via decision. Magomedov is coming off a 97-second victory on Dana White's Contender Series, and all 10 of his wins have come via stoppage, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's interesting, right? Because physically they're very similar, same reach, same height. Different styles though. Melsik Baghasaryan is a very good striker, and one that is not a well-rounded mixed martial artist, whereas Murtazali Magomedov is a well-rounded martial artist, and he's a good finisher and he's dangerous everywhere. I think distance striking, Melsik Baghasaryan can give plenty of people, issues because of his leg dexterity, the footwork that he does have. And if you're willing to stand and trade with him, you may get frustrated because of the footwork, and you could be losing some minutes or rounds against him. He was able to pick up victories over Tucker Lutz, Bruno Souza, Colin Anglin, and Dennis Bazookia on a Contender Series. If you think about that, Anglin likes to strike, Bazookia likes to strike, Souza likes to strike, Tucker Lutz mixed in some takedowns. I mean, all these guys try to mix in takedowns when they're up against the striking prowess of Melsik Baghasaryan. I just think that the firepower that Murtazali Magomedov possesses is it's dangerous on the feet. It's dangerous if he gets you to the ground, whether he's landing ground and pound, looking for a submission, or just, throwing big combinations. I don't think that Murtazali Magomedov is all that great. So the way I'm looking at this is like finish-only markets. I think Murtazali Magomedov makes a ton of sense because I could see him finding the finish. His whole career's like that. If this fight gets stretched out, I think that Melsik Baghasaryan's decision equity is interesting, and it could be a low volume, boring, elusive type of win where he doesn't really score the greatest, but given his salary, it kind of makes things work. 7,200, it's I don't hate it, but I do think that the finish from Murtazali Magomedov is inevitable. I think he'll find it at one point. Melsik could be winning the fight, and then all of a sudden get his lights put out. So I'm gonna go with Murtazali Magomedov. But anytime these guys are making their UFC debuts and they're going up against a guy that's fought 5-6 times in the UFC, it always just makes me hesitate a little bit. But the pick will be Murtazali Magomedov inside the distance.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, what I've seen from him so far, and would not be surprised if Baghasaryan may be fighting for his spot on the UFC roster. Next up, we got Vinicius Oliveira taking on Andre Fili. As I mentioned, it's a fight that changed 2 weeks ago when Vinicius was supposed to take on Kyoji. Oliveira priced at 8,900. Andre Fili priced at 7,300. Oliveira did not go well from his last matchup in his first UFC main event against Mario Batista, where Batista was able to submit him there in the second round. Really showed that potential takedown liability that there is there for Oliveira. 3 of his 4 wins in the UFC have come via decision. Andre Fili, 13-12, 1 no contest in the UFC. His last 2 fights and 3 of 4 have ended via split decision. He's alternating wins and losses in his last 8 fights, coming off a loss against Jose Delgado back in March. But to me, it's just if Touchy-Feely can get the takedowns going, that is the reason to roster him, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Andre Fili is always interesting from an underdog standpoint. I don't trust his chin, and I don't trust his fight IQ at times, but I trust his skills. I think that skill-wise, Andre Fili's striking is underrated. He has a good jab, really good hands. He has some kicks. Wrestling, he can wrestle offensively really well. He also has, good guillotine chokes. But defensively, I worry about him getting hit. Defensively, I worry about him getting submitted. I mean, I remember him. You're training at a Team Alpha Male. You shouldn't be getting caught with guillotine chokes. And I remember him getting guillotine choked by Melquizael Costa when he was in top position, and there was no threat to begin with, but he left his neck out there. So mental lapses from Andre Fili, and you know what you're going to get. But I will say that if I'm Vinicius Oliveira and I saw how my previous fight went against Mario Batista, I would be working on my takedown defense. I would be working on a lot of things. So even though he was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze, I'm sure he's been wrestling more now than he probably has in prior fights, offensively and defensively, right? So I think that his takedown defense will be improved. And I also think that, yes, it is a change from going from a striker of Giga Chikadze's caliber to a well-rounded mixed martial artist of Andre Fili. But I honestly think that this will be competitive, and Vinicius Oliveira's aggressiveness will ultimately find him a finish. And I'm seeing it in like round 2 or round 3. I just don't trust Fili's chin to this point. Fili has firepower as well. We've seen Fili knock out some opponents Lucas Almeida being one of them. So outside the UFC, Vinicius Oliveira's chin didn't hold up, but inside the UFC, we're looking at a guy that hasn't even been dropped. He was just outclassed by Mario Batista, taken down 5 times and controlled for 6 minutes. So I'm going Vinicius Oliveira here. I think he touches the chin of Andre Fili, and I think he puts him out. So I think the price tag, is great on both of them. Value for Fili if you think that he can extend this fight and win a decision and stay out of danger. But I think 8,900 is a pretty good salary for a guy of Vinicius Oliveira. But if you look, man, it takes him a little bit to get going. He hasn't found a first or second round finish inside the UFC. He beat Bernardo Sopai in round 3 and scored 98. And prior to that, he's had just 3 decision wins, 73, 80, and 88. So not the best DFS friendly play, but I do think that he does get the finish at 8,900.
For me, it's about what the value really could be, and when you're looking to save some salary, and always love to have a underdog that loves to go to the takedown. Like, to me, I would value Andre Fili a little bit more than I would value Mitch Raposo, just because of how each of them could potentially win the fight there. But overall, I think Vinicius should get the job done in this one. Next up, you got Andre Lima taking on Kevin Borjas. Lima priced at 9,700. He is the most expensive fighter on this card. Kevin Borjas priced at 6,500. Unfortunately, Andre Lima may only ever be known for one thing. He was on the receiving end of getting bit, and then he got a tattoo from the bite marks, if you may remember that. And by the way, the guy who bit him, Igor Severano, has actually been on a nice run. Did lose his most recent fight, but a guy that probably never will get back into the UFC. But Lima 4-0 in the UFC. First time we've seen him since March of 2025, which was a decision win against Daniel Baez. Borjas 1-4 in the UFC. He's lost back-to-back fights. He's coming off a second-round TKO, and definitely a guy I think is fighting for a spot on the UFC roster.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that Andre Lima will always be known as the guy involved in the infamous bite. But he's starting to make a name for himself. I mean, he's really damn good. He's undefeated. He's 11-0, and he's beaten some solid people. I think that Igor Severino is one of his best, opponents he's faced, and I think that it was evident that the way to beat Andre Lima is to incorporate takedowns, because Severino went 5-9 in the takedown department. But if you stand on the feet with Andre Lima, you're going to get outstruck. He outstruck Mitch Raposo. He had to incorporate wrestling against Felipe Dos Santos, and he outstruck Daniel Baez and finished him with a rear naked choke in the second round. But this undefeated fighter is getting a very nice matchup to showcase his striking prowess against Kevin Borjas, who will just be willing to engage in a firefight. Borjas did knock down Imanol Rodriguez twice in his most recent fight, and then did succumb to a finish himself. So, Borjas is fighting for his job. Borjas has fought really, really tough competition. Joshua Van Costa, Alessandro Costa, Ronaldo Rodriguez, Sumar Derji, and Imanol Rodriguez. But that's the way she goes sometimes. I mean, if you don't have a manager looking out for you, or the UFC is just going to use you as the B-side, that's clearly what's happening here. Borjas' best way to win is to win a low-volume decision. I don't see it happening. I think Andre Lima's price tag's crazy, but I think that he's just going to, he's going to be ahead on the scorecards over Kevin Borjas, and actually he can finish him the longer this fight goes. So give me Andre Lima in a pretty convincing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just about paying off that price tag at 9,700. I mean, you got to get the finish there. Look, he should definitely win this matchup. I feel very confident in that. Now, do I want to put a minus 650 fighter in my parlay? Probably not. I think there's some other fighters I would be looking to get into a parlay. Sam, by the way, I appreciate the super chat. We'll get to your question at the end of the show. Next up, we got a female matchup, and the trend continues, Pete. We got
Yeah.
Got two female fights, and yep, they are both on the prelims. It is this trend in the UFC that we've now seen here throughout 2026. Got PM Mesquita taking on Melissa Mullins. Mullins price at 6,600. Mesquita price at 9,600. She is a massive betting favorite here, minus 650. In terms of that, she's 2-0 in the UFC. Both her wins come via submission. She is a former LFA bantamweight champion, coming off a win back in March against Rendon. Mullins, first time she fights in almost exactly 1 year. Our last fight was on June 21st of last year. She was scheduled to fight Luana Carolina back in March. However, the fight was pulled when Santos had weigh-in issues. She is 2-2 in the UFC, and one thing that has not happened in her career, Pete, that very well could happen tomorrow night. She's never been submitted.
Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting fight because you got Bia Mesquita, who is known as the Lady Goat. I mean, one of the best women's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in history, going up against Melissa Mullins, who's, a tough out, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and a dog, a fighter that will get bloodied up. She's solid everywhere, but I don't think that she's nearly on the level of Bia Mesquita in the jiu-jitsu department. I always worry about these jiu-jitsu fighters and competitors crossing over into MMA if they're unable to get the takedown. But based on the relentlessness that we've seen from Bia Mesquita, she will swarm punches as well, and she will just, continue to push a pace on her opponents. It's only taken her to the second round in her UFC fights, and that was in her debut against Arina Alexieva. She went 2 of 3 in the takedown department, had 5 minutes of control time, and then found the finish in round 2 against Montse Rendon. It took her 2 minutes to find the finish. 1 takedown, 1 sub attempt, and she finished her with 2 minutes of control time. So if you get on the mat with Bia Mesquita, you are in trouble. I just don't know if Melissa Mullins is the fighter to keep the fight on the feet and like expose that certain jiu-jitsu fighters need to develop their wrestling. We did see Mullins get taken down against Arina Alexieva and had 50 seconds of control time, so it wasn't much. And then Mullins had a ton of control time in that one. But like if you look at it, Nora Colnoro, knocked her down, didn't attempt takedowns. Claudia Segula, attempted 3 takedowns, but known primarily for her striking. Daria Zelezniakova, known for her striking. So it's like, all right, well, now you're going up against a true BJJ competitor and a high-level BJJ black belt who trains at a top-end gym. I think she's getting thrown to the wolves here. Do I think that there's a world where Mesquita can't get the fight to the feet and maybe Mullins beats her up, or, Mesquita's playing jiu-jitsu off of her back and Mullins is elbowing her face? Sure. There could be a physicality difference here because Mullins is 5'7" and Mesquita is 5'4". But I still think that Mullins isn't the fighter to expose Bia Mesquita. So I think that Mesquita gets a finish. It's just, when does it occur? Does it occur early, or does it take a little bit of time to work towards the finish? But I think that Mesquita is a legitimate BJJ prospect crossover into MMA. So at 9,600, I still like her here, and I think that she's going to get the finish.
Call me crazy.
Okay.
Plus 500 wins by TKO KO.
So listen, a part of American Top Team, I told you that they are making a focus to incorporate ground and pound more on, especially for the jiu-jitsu competitors, and in their MMA rooms, because it's going to open up the submission, or it can lead to an eventual finish, because this isn't, you don't just play nice and keep control time, damage them. And honestly, that's one where like inside the distance is clearly the safest. Picking one side or the other, submission or TKO, can always bite you in the ass. But the plus 500 number is completely juicy for a fighter in Melissa Mullins who gets bloodied up, and I can see a legitimate doctor stoppage. So I don't hate that call at all. And you had to see, even though Jillian Robertson's not from American Top Team, you saw a submission fighter like Jillian Robertson start to utilize ground and pound more, and that's why it's become, now she's getting a title shot against Mackenzie Dern because of it.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the props on this one, Yeah, if you want to play it safe, just go the minus 175 wins inside the distance. But that plus 500 wins by TKO KO. I mean, I would probably say maybe a quarter unit play on that one. Just something, a little bit of sprinkle there. Next up, we got a fight that was supposed to take place back in April, but did not happen because during fight week, Mitch Raposo had an illness and was pulled from the fight against Allan Nascimento. Nascimento is priced at 8,800. Raposo is priced at 7,400. Nascimento 4-1 in the UFC. He has won 4 straight since dropping his UFC debut. Raposo 1-2 in the UFC. All of his fights in the UFC have gone to the distance. He is coming off that win in October against Azat Maximum, and trust me, he wants to let everyone know that he was almost a 4-1 betting underdog in that fight.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is an interesting fight because I think that Allan Nascimento has a pretty record, 22-6, and he's deserving of a ranking, to be honest, of how amazing his submission grappling is. On the feet, I do still view him as somewhat susceptible to eating a big shot or getting outstruck by his opponents. I mean, Cody Durden was putting a pace on him in their fight. And I think the best way for Allan Nascimento to continue to climb within the division and make a name for himself and climb the rankings is to implement his grappling early and often. The issue is that he's a very good back taker. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, not a wrestler, as his first discipline. So, the takedowns outside of a backpack, they are, fatiguing for sure. And it's not his best way to find the finish. Front headlock position is great. Also getting on the back. So if you can nullify that, you can kind of humanize Allan Nascimento. Nascimento's striking is good. He has good Muay Thai. He comes from a very talented gym, but all these years of training his striking, you can still see grappling tendencies of these guys that keep their chins high in the sky, that they don't respond well to big combinations or big strikes coming their way. There's a path for Mitch Raposo to win this fight. Now, let me just say that if Nascimento takes Mitch Raposo down and takes his back, he's probably finishing him, right? Because that's how good Nascimento's jiu-jitsu is. I believe in Mitch Raposo, and I've believed in him for a while. He's from New England, so I have my New England bias. Also, he trains with one of my striking coaches now, Ross Levine, the Karate Combat champ. So I'm going to have personal bias here in this matchup, but I'm going to lay out why I actually think Mitch Raposo can win this fight. Avoid getting your back taken. That's the number one thing that has to occur, because if not, I think Nascimento can submit anybody. It's not a knock against Mitch Raposo. Keep it on the feet and answer these leg kicks with a big combination. I actually think that we can see Allan Nascimento get a little too comfortable, go to throw a lazy leg kick, and Mitch Raposo throws a big shot over the top or intercepts that kick and lands a combination, and we can see him drop and possibly finish Nascimento. But the most likely scenario is that Mitch Raposo sprawl and brawls his way to outworking him on the feet. He just needs to increase his volume, because so many times we see Mitch in these razor close fights. I think under the tutelage of Ross Levine, having more time to fight Allan Nascimento and develop a game plan and work will do nothing but benefit him. I know that Ascension Athletics is another camp that has brought in a high-end pro to help Mitch with the grappling sequences. So I think that Mitch will be prepared here. I'm going to take the underdog shot on Mitch Raposo, and it's mainly because I know that Nascimento can fall into a striking matchup. He won't go out there and grapple immediately. He's a little too content and comfortable on the feet, and I actually think that that's where Raposo can edge him out early, possibly even finishing him. So if it hits the mat, I think Raposo is probably in for big danger, because Nascimento can submit anybody. You even look at what he did to Jafel Filio from grappling. Didn't submit him, but of how good he's able to control positions. And on the feet, I think Mitch can get it done. So it's mainly a salary play too. I don't like a lot of underdogs, but I'm going to be a homer pick here, and I'm going to go with Mitch Raposo at 7,400.
Yeah, I think the 7,400 price tag gives me a little more intrigued, just because, I mean, like, the way Mitch is going to win is by striking. So if history tells us, likely goes 15 minutes, and you got to have a lot of volume in there. But overall, I think Nascimento gets the job done. But yeah, when you look at the value plays, Raposo is definitely someone to look at in terms of that one. Next up, we got Gaston Bolanos taking on Michael Aswell Jr. Aswell priced at 9,400. Bolanos is priced at 6,800. Bolanos 2-2 in the UFC. He's alternating wins and losses in the promotion, coming off a submission loss 13 months ago, where he was a slight betting favorite. He was scheduled to fight back in March, but the fight was canceled when his opponent had issues weighing in. Aswell 1-2 in the UFC, coming off a decision loss in March against Luke Riley. Both of his UFC losses have come via decision, and 4 of his last 5 fights have gone the distance, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's interesting because Gaston Bolanos at one time he's a Muay Thai extraordinaire. I mean, his Muay Thai is fantastic. Used to watch him in Lion Fight. Then I obviously watched him cross over into MMA with Bellator. And he's a guy that's, it takes a long time to develop your MMA game. And you're not always going to be handed striking matchups. And also, some fighters are just not small glove fighters. And I think that you can see the small gloves favor Michael Aswell, whereas Gaston Bolanos is still developing and learning how to be an MMA fighter. The angles, the mixing up of takedowns and everything isn't as clean as Muay Thai or kickboxing. So I will say that Bolanos is always live to win a striking matchup. So if this maintains on the feet, which it should, because Michael Aswell loves to strike, then Bolanos is live, right? Bolanos is live to pull off a victory as a plus 330 underdog at 6,800. He has a phenomenal spinning elbow, so Aswell needs to be wise to that. Do not walk into the spinning elbow, and he's going to go to that well constantly, and sometimes a little too much, which will make him telegraph and just be a little predictable. I think that Bolanos' best way to win these matchups are to get back to low kicks, start chopping away, try to treat this like a Muay Thai fight, and utilize good footwork and chop at the legs and, be at range, be at distance. But ultimately, man, I think that certain fighters are just, I don't know, I just see a guy, Michael Aswell, perform decently well against Luke Riley, even though he lost a decision. I know what Michael Aswell has done, and he had an absolute war with Bogdan Grad, who's a big guy, had an absolute war with Balaji Oki, who's a big guy, lost both of those, was able to knock down and finish Lucas Almeida, and then lost to Luke Riley. So the losses are to Riley, Oki, and Bogdan Grad. All 3 of those guys are better than Gaston Bolanos, even though, I'll root for Gaston Bolanos, but I think that Aswell's in a fantastic spot to put a pace, to put volume, and to ultimately get a finish. And never mind put grappling on Bolanos, because I don't believe in Bolanos' jiu-jitsu or his wrestling are at the UFC level yet. I still don't think so. 42% takedown defense. It was clearly evident against Quang Lee that he needs work in that department. 4 takedowns given up against 6 minutes of control time. So I think Michael Aswell is in a fantastic spot. High-paced fighter, multiple paths to victory, 9,400. I might have just talked myself into rostering him a ton more, because even in the decision, I think that he could still put up a very solid score. So give me Michael Aswell here at minus 425 as a 9,400 favorite.
Yeah, I like Aswell in this spot too. I mean, I wish it was a little less than that. My book has him at minus 475 on the money line. I wish that was a little bit lower. You could get the inside distance prop is plus 155. By the way, his decision prop is plus 115, so it kind of tells you where the betting public is on this one. But yeah, I think Aswell gets the job done here. Next up, we got 2 guys who are making their UFC debuts: Leon Shabazian and Levan Chokeli. Chokeli priced at 9,100. Hunter Shabazzian is priced at 7,100. We did see Shabazzian on Dan White's Contender Series all the way back in 2019, which was a loss against Phil Rowe. He has won 4 in a row. All those fights coming in Tough Enough, which is a Las Vegas promotion, and all 4 of those wins coming in the first round via submission. Most recent win coming in March against Robert Hell. Chokeli, first fight in 13 months, and if you watched Bellator back in the day, he's a name you will be remembered. 4-3 in Bellator.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because you see Shabazzian and you're like, all right, well, it's not Edmund, but you dive into Leon Shabazzian and you're like, oh, I remember him from the Contender Series, and that's where Phil Rowe ended up finishing him in the 3rd round. Shabazzian knocked down Phil Rowe. Shabazzian's got, he's very similar to his brother. I mean, dangerous everywhere, but a liability defensively in multiple areas. And I think that the experience of Levon Chokeli is going to be evident here, in the strength of schedule too. I mean, to see who Levon Chokeli has fought inside Bellator, it's pretty remarkable because I remember he picked up some notable wins. He knocked out Sabah Hamasi, and then I also know that he somewhat derailed a hype train in Roman Ferrallo, if I remember correctly. So I think that Levon Chokeli's experience is significant against higher competition. He's 14-3. Leon Shabazzian is 12-4. But yeah, Chokeli, yeah, he front kicked Sabah Hamasi. He beat Michael Lombardo, who's a tough out, and then he had a decision victory and took the O from Roman Ferraldo. So for me, I really think that Chokeli's in a good spot here. I'm not a big believer in the Shabazzian guys in MMA, from getting thrown to the wolves, if you will. It's Chokeli's debut, so how does he respond? Could he have UFC jitters, octagon jitters? I say no. Because he's fought in a major organization, and this is the same guy that did fight Lawrence Larkin too. Yes, he got finished in the first round, but I think Levon's in a really, really good spot to pick up a victory here.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do in terms of this one. And, we always talk about it's really tough to take fighters make their UFC debut, but one of them's got to get the win. And I do look at Chokeli as the pick for me. Next up, we got a female match. You see Carol Hossa and Luana Santos. Santos priced at 7,900. Hossa is priced at 8,300. Hossa 8-4 in the UFC. All of her fights have gone the distance. She started 4-0 in the UFC and has alternating wins and losses. Since then, she is coming off a win back in August. Santos 5-1 in the UFC. She's 1-2 straight, and most recently coming off a decision win in December against Melissa Croden Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting fight, right? Because you have Carol Hossa, who's fought some legitimate names and tough competition throughout her entire UFC tenure. Clearly the more experienced of the two. I mean, she has over 10 UFC fights, and she's facing Luana Santos, who is somewhat new to the UFC, but has only suffered one defeat, and that was against Casey O'Neill. And in that fight where she lost, it was on display. If she's unable to get the fight to the mat, she's live to lose. She went 1 of 5 in the takedown department and had 2.5 minutes of control time, but was ultimately outstruck 83-41 from Casey O'Neill, and she just didn't look the same. And then if you go and you kind of put all of her fights under a microscope, it's like, all right, well, she beat Juliana Miller on the feet. That was fluky and also much more to do about her opponent than what Luana Santos brings to the table. She was able to out judoka her opponent, Stephanie Egger, who's also a judoka, had 7.5 minutes of control time, but relatively no get-up game. She was able to finish Maria Agapova, find a takedown. She was able to finish Tainara Lisboa, 2 takedowns, and she was able to pick up a very low-volume win over Melissa Croden, where she had 3 of 7 takedowns and 9.5 minutes of control time. So guess what, Carol Hossa? You cannot get taken down here. You cannot allow yourself to be pinned down. And I think that Carol Hossa has solid takedown defense, enough to keep it up on the feet. She has 70% takedown defense. Will she get taken down? I say yes. But will she repeatedly get taken down or held down? I say no. She was taken down only 2 times from Aylin Perez. Aylin Perez had 8 takedown attempts and she had 4 minutes of control time. But if you are stuffing 6 takedowns, even though it's a different type of style, a different type of grappling from Aylin Perez, I think that you are wise enough to keep it on the feet and win a decision here. So for me, I like Carol Hosa. When I look at the strength of schedule, it's not even close. I mean, you're talking about Hosa's fighting ranked opposition: Nora Cornell, Aylin Perez, Penny Kianzad, Irina Aldana, Yana Santos, Norma Dumont, whereas Luana Santos is fighting Melissa Croden, Tainara Lisboa, Maria Agapova, Stephanie Egger, Casey O'Neill. I mean, like a few of them, but nowhere near the name equity or value that Carol Hosa has been fighting. So clearly you have to keep the fight on the feet. You cannot be wet blanketed as she was years ago against Sarah McMahon, 10 minutes of control time. We've never seen Carol Hosa get submitted inside the UFC. We've never seen Carol Hosa get knocked out inside the UFC. We've seen her face tough grapplers and wrestlers, previously. And I think that Carol Hosa is live to put an absolute pace on Luana Santos on the feet if she's able to keep it there. So, I mean, I know we talked earlier about don't really like the fight for DFS, but the more I think about it, if this stays on the feet, I actually think that Carol Hosa can put up some solid volume and work her way to a pretty dominant decision. So give me Carol Hosa here. I know people probably really want Luana Santos, and I get it. I think she's the live dog, and I think that she has a path to victory. But I'm going to go with Carol Hosa here, Jason.
Yeah, Carol Hosa is who I lean in this position as well. I do wonder whether she can score. It's obviously she's not a huge favorite, so she's only priced at 8,300, but that is she would be the official pick for me. Their opening fight of the night is also 2 fighters making their UFC debut, Collins and Tanzalovi. Tanzalovi lost back on the Contender Series in 2024. This is his first fight since February 2025. Price is 7,700. Should be noted that when I looked at Tapology, his first 2 fights didn't say what the weight class was, but every other fight since then was at bantamweight. So he is coming up to 145 pounds. Collins priced at 8,500, making his UFC debut. He's won back-to-back fights and most recently won the A1 Combat Featherweight title just a month ago, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, this fight between Collins and Tanzilov is a really, really interesting fight, and it's an absolute banger. I think that Otari Tanzilovi is a dangerous striker, throws phenomenal kicks. But if you remember, he fought Josias Musasa on the Contender Series, and he had to go to the well of takedowns to try to win some rounds or to try to solidify some rounds. But he lost a split decision. Some people didn't really like the way that was scored, but he went 4 of 16 in the takedown department, had 3.5 minutes of control time. But you have to remember that this is a guy that's competed primarily at bantamweight. Now he's going to be fighting up against a true featherweight in Shane Collins. And guess what? Shane Collins is a very, very good boxer who also has solid wrestling. So Shane Collins reminds me, and I don't know if anybody else has said this, I haven't listened to any other podcasts this week, but he kind of reminds me of like an Ethan Ewing type of guy, where it's just like really good hands, really good wrestling, and the combinations he puts together and how much he doesn't discriminate. He will go to the body. So I think that Shane Collins is in a really interesting spot to big brother Otari Tanzilovi here. Has to keep the fight on the feet, obviously. Has to worry about these tricky kicks that Tanzilovi is landing on his sparring partners that I watch on Instagram. So, yeah, I mean, like Tanzilovi's, he's live to win this fight. He's live to make this really competitive. Both UFC debuts, so you never really know how somebody's going to respond. I'll get to Tanzilovi in some lineups, of course, because he can wrestle. He also can strike really well. But I think firepower-wise, I think that Collins has it in his hands. I think that he can hurt him on the feet. I think that he can hurt him to the body. So, yeah, give me Collins here to either edge out a decision or get a later finish. I like Collins here at 8,500.
Yeah, I like Collins in this position as well. And Uriah Faber's A1 Combat really is starting to seem like it's becoming one of those go-to promotions for the UFC to, obviously there's certain promotions that they look at and they like to see fighters in those promotions. And he's just another guy to add to the list. Of course, if you do got any questions, line those up in the chat right now. We'll answer those questions here momentarily. We'll go straight up fight picks. And I'll say this for me, it's going to be Chalk City for me. Manel Kape in the main event.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm going to go Manel Kape.
I'll go Stirling, but do like Cutelaba for DFS.
I agree with that sentiment. I will still say Cutelaba, though.
Rodriguez.
Magomedov.
I keep going back and forth on this one. I think Vinicius, but man, there's certainly a great path for Fili.
Okay, I'm going to go Oliveira.
Give me Lima. Mesquita. Nascimento.
I'm going to go Raposo here. Homer pick.
Go Haswell.
I'm going to go Haswell.
Chokeli. Hosa. And give me Collins.
Collins for me as well.
First off, start with the super chat that we got here from Sam. As always, Sam, I appreciate the super chats that you bring in here. Highest leverage plays in each salary tier, and happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Pete. Get to celebrate there this week there. In terms of in the 9K range, I mean, Lima probably, it might be just because of the price point.
Yeah, I mean, the price point's so restrictive. I mean, you're probably right, though, right? I mean, we do have two debuting guys, so maybe one of them are going overlooked rather, and underappreciated, but you're probably right saying it's Lima.
In the 8K, I would go Karol Hosa.
I agree. It's Karol Hosa.
7K range. I mean, it's probably Luana Santos.
As a leverage?
Yeah. Yes. As a, I mean, Shabazian may be very low owned too.
I'm thinking it's Shabazian or Baghasaryan.
Yeah. 6K range. I mean, I think they'll all be very low owned.
It had to be Borjas, right?
Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah, I would definitely stick with him in terms of that one. Get some questions over here from Discord. First up, value plays underneath 8K and a core 3 on DraftKings. I mean, value plays, I think underneath 8K. Hyder Amil, if he can keep the fight on the feet. Horiguchi, potentially 25 minutes to deal with. You talked about Raposo. I've talked about Fili.
Yeah, I like Raposo. And outside of that, man, it's got to be Cutelaba for me.
Okay. Core 3 on DraftKings. I think for me, it's probably Christian Rodriguez, Manel Kape, and I think I'd put Magomedov in there.
Really? Okay, I'm going to say Christian Rodriguez, Manel Kape, and then who can I go with for my third? I'm going to go with Aswell. I think he's in a good spot.
Okay. Next up, best leverage play.
I say Karol Hosa.
That's the thing I've been looking at. That she's probably because of the price point and where she's at. I would definitely say it's her. Best takedown upside. I think you got to look at Cutelaba, Rodriguez, Fili, Mesquita.
Yeah, but there's certain fights too, right, where Christian Rodriguez just don't shoot takedowns.
Yeah, but it's the path.
It's weird. Yeah, he's got so many. He's got a clear path. He needs to.
Yeah, to me, it's definitely the path that is there for him. And ranking the 9K options, Is it wrong with me that I put Mesquita 1?
I think Mesquita is 1.
Then I think I go Aswell 2.
Same.
I think that I go Magomedov 3 for me.
Okay.
Then it's probably Lima, Stirling, Chokeli.
Chokeli last?
Yeah.
Why? You don't think he finishes him?
Yeah,
Or you just don't like the volume?
I think it's a decision fight.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think I put Chokeli above Lima. But yeah.
Next up, from Sam here, top slate breakers. How about Hyder Amil? Keeps the fight on the feet and just
he's a hurricane, man. Yeah,
and the volume he brings. And maybe the guy we should be talking about as potential slate breaker that we haven't is Kyoji Horiguchi.
He will screw everything up if he wins. I mean, he really will.
Yeah.
And he's live too. I mean, he's got experience, and he's already got the confidence of beating Manel Kape.
Yeah.
It's been some time ago.
Top dart play. Top dart play for me. I'd probably say Cutelaba.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more confident in Cutelaba than you are, but yeah, that's who I'm picking.
Jason and Pete special for me. That's the first fight of the night. I really hate rostering a fight with two guys making their UFC debut. That's just me.
You're still gonna do it though.
Yeah, I know. and there is no 8,200, 8,000 fight this week here. Top captain MVP takes. So when I looked earlier, the captain lines were not out. Let me just go on, maybe see if over the last 2 hours or so if they've actually put out the captain lines there. I mean, obviously in captain contests, I mean, I really, someone like a Christian Rodriguez, if he goes the captain contests aren't out yet, the takedown route. I mean, I'm sure Manel Kape will be highly owned in that spot. Maybe Vinicius Oliveira is that sneaky captain play.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think it's crazy when I sit there and I look at what he's done box score wise, that he has only had one fight where he scored 90 points, because this guy looks like he's going to get 100 points every single time.
Yeah. Top our favorite parlays. So right now there are two fighters I really like to put in a parlay, and it may just be a 2-fighter parlay, and that's taking the money line on Manel Kape at -165 and the money line on Christian Rodriguez at -190.
Manel Kape and Christian Rodriguez. Yeah, I mean, I'd be scared of Kyoji Horiguchi. I think that Christian Rodriguez is in a good spot for betting. And I also think that, I mean, I could see why you'd pick that. The other lines are a little out of whack.
Yeah. there's just
I think instead of Manel Kape, I would take a shot on a -110 Carol Hosa. Even though, it's a coin flip. I think that she's going to do it this weekend.
By the way, here are your prop bets on Carol Hosa. Inside the distance, +1,400. TKO KO, +1,600. Submission, +3,000. Decision, -105.
Sounds like I'm going to bet every single one. That's exactly what that is.
Takedown king and queen. I think we've kind of really labeled out all the people that we think could be. The queen to me would be Mesquita. King, probably Ian Cutelaba, if he goes that route.
He needs to. He's going to get chinned if he doesn't.
Yeah. Road to the Manchester Series 4.5. We've got 12 fights, man. That's
more.
Yeah, I gotta go more in terms of that one. But of course, as always, we appreciate everyone who tunes in for every episode of Fight HQ. Of course, coming up next week, we've got the international card, which is headlined by Rafael Fiziev and Manuel Torres. Maybe did I just pull that out of my ass?
I think you did.
I know it's Fiziev is in one side of the main.
It is Fiziev and Rafael Torres. It's in Azerbaijan.
Yeah, yeah.
And Baku.
Yeah, you look at that, and obviously it's an early morning.
God, look at those names.
A noon start. Interesting middleweight matchup as your co-main event. Shara Magomedov and Michel Pereira in that one. Salikhov's on that. It's actually Amabayev, Charles Johnson should be a nice little matchup. But early start time next Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, which I am all about it. I'm all about it.
I love it. Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to that. Of course, we'll be back here next week to break it all down for you. Of course, link to that DraftKings contest is in the description of the show. Also, link to Pete's Patreon page is there as well. Of course, be sure to hit that thumbs up on the video, like, subscribe, all that, as we appreciate everyone who checks out Fight HQ every week. And we will talk to you next week.